Here's Brody Brazil.
I had this realization the other day, and instantly I knew it necessitated this YouTube video. Why don't we ever interview the officials after games? I realize it has happened, and it does happen, different places and different opportunities, but never on a regular basis are we hearing from these men and women who actually make big decisions. They impact critical moments of professional and collegiate sports. Now, for the sake of this video, let's just keep to the NFL, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, and MLS. Let's keep it to major North American sports. College might be a separate conversation. I don't want to go down the ranks here of different levels. I want to stay right at the top. For professional sports, it is weird, right, that we never hear from the referees, the officials, the umpires. Who does talk in professional sports? Pretty much everybody. Players do interviews. Coaches and managers do interviews. Executives, GMs do interviews. Team owners do interviews. Fans even do interviews about opinions and commentary. And the media, I suppose, does interviews with themselves if they do a guest appearance on somebody's talk show, or they're just like me, out there talking, putting things out there in the universe. Pretty much everybody involved with a game surrounding a season in a sport talks at one point or another. But can you remember the last time you saw a post-game interview with a referee, an umpire, or an official? As I said before, they do happen. Usually it's just in textual quote form. There's actually nothing recorded, not even audio. It's just word for word. Here's what they said. And usually it comes in special circumstances, a playoff game, a Super Bowl game, something that had to be addressed, that absolutely had to be addressed. I'm talking about some of the pedestrian moments, but also some of the important moments. Why don't we, on a regular basis, hear from these people who, again, are such critical parts of determining a lot of these sports games that we consume? Now, I want to go back to a theory on referees, umpires, and officials. They always say the best officials are the ones you notice the least, right? It's because they kind of fade into the background. They're not the main story of the game. It's not the fact that the strike zone got huge, or that hooking penalty didn't get called, or that was not an offensive foul 3 times in a row. The best officials seem to be unnoticed. And I guess that is a positive. That is a really good way of defining a good official's job, is that they're so good, they did what you expected. You didn't even really notice they did not stand out. But while that is true for what they do on the field of play, the sheet of ice, or the court of basketball, while that's true, right? At the same point, I don't think we can apply that same theory to them defending themselves or getting an opportunity to be part of the conversation of sports. Because if we exclude umpires, referees, and officials, they never get to defend themselves. They also never get to appear human. They're not humanized when they're never spoken for. They're spoken about plenty. I mean, think how awkward it is. Referee makes a bad call. You pick the sport, doesn't matter. Player who should have gotten the good call in the game does not get the benefit of the call. It goes the other way. Well, they never ask the player who benefited from the call in question. They always ask the player who was disadvantaged in that situation. So what is that player supposed to say? Like, they don't want to put this individual down who made that call, or even somebody in a replay room in Toronto or New York or wherever it is. These people, they make critical, in the moment decisions, and they never get to defend themselves. Why couldn't you see the play? Well, because I was over here, they were over there, it happened this fast. And sometimes all it takes is that. Sometimes that's all we're really looking for, is a human answer. A lot of times that would satisfy things. Or even, I'm not saying that they have to admit anything. And the whole purpose of doing these interviews is not to have them admit something after the fact. It's not to always say they were wrong. Sometimes it's just to give perspective on what they saw, why they saw it, how they saw it, and what they called, and why they called it. I do think we need to include them in the conversation instead of just talking about them and letting them kind of go scot-free. And I do want to just say this real quick. On the note of accountability, who is not accountable for their actions and their results on a field of play? I mean, everybody is graded and judged on numbers and stats and wins and losses. Heck, the broadcasters on ratings. If your ratings aren't good and your team is good, you might get replaced. Just like a batting average, just like an ERA, just like a win-loss record if you're in the front office. Numbers define so much in our world. But umpires, there's not really numbers on them. Officials, there's not really umpires on them. Referees, there's not exactly numbers on them. And they can perform great. They can also be human. We never hear from them. We never have results. They're the only ones that go unquestioned. So here's what I'm proposing for interview opportunities. First off, I would never allow the media to do a scrum session around an umpire, an official, or referee. That's not the right way to do it. Too many people, too many questions. I do believe on sending one representative of the media, one responsible member to go in there and have their session. One person that's selected by the media could rotate around. That's fine. The core group of media covering a team says, you know what, your turn this time to go in there and talk to whoever about the calls made in tonight's game. So it's a one-on-one conversation. I would also say that it should be on camera. Now, that is not to put anybody in a more difficult spot. That's actually to help facilitate this process. Sometimes quotes are taken even a little bit out of context without body language. Sometimes body language is all you need to see. An umpire who had a bad day. I kind of want to see a little slumped over. I want to see a little humble pie. That's fine. There's no problem with that. And again, this could also be the opportunity for said umpire, said referee, said official to say, look at this 10 times over. I'll show it to you here one more time. This is why I called it. That's also why New York or Toronto or the replay room, that's why they backed me up on it. This gives them the opportunity to defend themselves. But on camera, while it might seem more serious that way, it actually helps everybody out to clear up any confusion. I also think that umpires, just like Major League Baseball players, NBA players, NFL players, NHL players, they never do interviews within the first 5-10 minutes of a game ending. There's always that cool-off period. So we would obviously apply that same cool-off period to the officials before they do any type of interviews. Obviously, the interview in question here would only stick to game topics, right? It can't extend to pretty much anything outside of a play, this or that. It can't be on somebody's history or any type of trends of calls. Like, it's just about their work in this game on this day or night. And then the last thing is here, I don't think, as I propose this, I'm not saying this needs to happen all the time. Right now, it happens next to never. But always would also be an error of too much. So it can't be never, but it can't be always. It's probably got to be more here on the often side, right? More often than not. Often, but not always. Let's say that. I think it would just go a long way of an umpire saying, here's what I saw. If there's any question, you know where to find me. Instead of, well, I guess we'll never know what the umpire was thinking right there. What was the ejection all about? And yeah, sometimes, there's questions asked that'll never have an answer, like nobody on the inside is giving away trade secrets, but at least open up the door with a little bit of insight that an official could do. So, I say this in defending referees, officials, and umpires. This is not to put them on the spot. Really, this is to help get them in the conversation. It's weird right now that they're the only ones not in the conversation. So maybe you're an umpire or an official or referee. Maybe you work a certain level of sports. Let me know what you think about my take on this. Am I close? Am I wrong? Am I right? Put it down in the comment section below. Also, thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed it, it was entertaining, or it gave you some value, and subscribe to the channel. You've made it here this long. I'd really appreciate you getting some more videos for the next thing I put out. You know what I'm realizing here? I need a sign-off for all these videos. I don't have one right now. I'll work on that. So I'll just say, see you next time.